Hello world. It's Saturday, March the 16th, 2019. Present time, 10:07 p.m. Today was not a particularly productive day for me. Starting to catch on to a theme. I woke up around noon, 8. Received a message from my father asking if I was available to talk around 2. I made my way back to the dormitory around 2:30, at which time I gave him a call. But by the time I called, I was a little surprised when my mom picked up the phone. And she said, "Well, your father just left. He just went over to your home." And we chatted for a while. Then he called me, so I said goodbye to my mom. Chatted with my father a bit. Yeah, there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do between now and we've got 2 months. 2 months remaining to hatch up a plan. Just to hatch up a plan. Actually make some moves. So time is short. It's gonna be tight. With that in mind, it's gonna move fast. I want to cut a little bit of content tonight and actually spend some time outside. Maybe it'll help. Maybe it won't do anything. Them, by Ben Sasse. Them, from 2018, explores the social, political, and economic challenges facing the United States of America. Drawing on insights from psychology, politics, and contemporary media, this book investigates the current climate of hostility in public life and explains how Americans can get back to a more harmonious way of life. Who should read this? Political animals looking for a fresh perspective. Democrats open to listening to the other side. And current affairs junkies wanting new insights. Who wrote the book? Ben Sasse is a United States Senator and a member of the Republican Party. He holds a PhD in American history from Yale University. When two tribes go to war. It's an unfortunate but inevitable part of human nature, an us versus them mentality. Whether it's courtesy of opposing political parties or different daily newspapers, most of us are guilty of listening only to our side's perspective and painting those with different opinions as bad. But what happens when this mentality is taken to the extreme? Unfortunately, a glance at the modern United States of America tells us the answer. As job prospects and opportunities evaporate, American communities are breaking down, and everyone is searching for someone to blame. Them. Join us on a journey to discover the consequences of extreme hostility in American public life. We'll take a look at how the media, universities, and ordinary people are stoking up rage and hate on both sides, and learn how this climate of angriness affects us all. Furthermore, we'll explore some of the threats facing our communities in the coming years, and learn what we can all do to build a more tolerant, open, and truthful society. In these blinks, you'll discover why modern-day news doesn't help you stay informed, what might happen to our communities if driverless cars become a reality, and how university campuses have become breeding grounds for intolerance. Loneliness is a killer, and men are particularly at risk. Americans are growing further and further apart, feeling rejected by their fellow countrymen on a daily basis. A death following the experience of rejection is a common theme in classic novels and plays. Just consider the lonely end of Shakespeare's King Lear, or the dramatic demise of Tolstoy's Anna Karenina. After becoming convinced she is no longer loved. Though these deaths are fiction, Tolstoy and Shakespeare had a valid point. Loneliness is a killer. Unlike in classic literature, when real people perish from social rejection, they rarely die a sudden, dramatic death. Instead, the effects of loneliness add up over time, weakening their brains and bodies and sending them to an early grave. For example, through the use of fMRI scans, neurologists have discovered that our reaction to social rejection activates the same region of the brain as physical distress. In other words, we mentally process loneliness in the same way we do actual pain. This means that loneliness also results in the same health effects as chronic pain, such as a lower functioning of the immune system, more stress hormones shooting around our body, and greater risk of heart disease. Given all these risks of loneliness, it is not surprising that lonely individuals report a higher rate of sickness, need longer recovery times, and suffer more heart attacks. Additionally, researchers at the University of Chicago found that emotional distress speeds up the aging process, and there is evidence that lonely people are at greater risk of dementia. Significantly, although loneliness and social rejection can strike anyone, research suggests that men are particularly at risk. One American study that looked at 67,000 men found that unmarried individuals under 45 years of age had a much higher probability of dying during any given period than their married male counterparts. Furthermore, elderly men have been found to have higher rates of loneliness than any other demographic in the United States. Interestingly, research suggests that men are more likely to suffer loneliness than women, because men have a greater tendency to stop making new friends once they get married, or begin climbing the career ladder. Consequently, for most adult males, their partner and their children are their gateways to any wider community. Therefore, if these two things are absent in their lives, either because they never married or had children, or due to the death of a spouse, as is the case with older males, then their social networks quickly and loneliness rushes in. Persistent loneliness reduces average longevity by more than twice as much as heavy drinking. American livelihoods are increasingly precarious, putting our communities at risk. When people work together, they enjoy an important shared identity. This is crucial for building strong relationships with one another. Before the Industrial Revolution, jobs were typically done side by side with the people who lived in your neighborhood. Furthermore, in the 20th century, Americans often had the same job for life at the same company. In other words, throughout history, working has usually meant being part of a close-knit community. But the characteristics of work are rapidly changing. Where once Americans could rely on jobs for life, the average American worker is now in a state of constant flux. Just consider the huge increase in employee turnover over the last 50 years. In the 1970s, the average length of time that a household's primary breadwinner spent at one company was 25 years. And today? Shockingly, the typical American worker now works at any one firm for only 4 years. This situation of high churn and job insecurity is about to get even more precarious as huge swaths of American workers change into self-employed freelancers. Experts now predict that by 2022, half of the American workforce will be working as project-based freelancers, Instead of being able to rely on a permanent position with a full-time contract, these workers will have to set up numerous projects by themselves to stay afloat. Consequently, half of all American workers will no longer have the kind of deep, lifelong relationships with companies or with colleagues that workers of previous generations took for granted. Furthermore, many of today's employees won't just have to line up their own projects. They may not be able to find work at all. For instance, technological advancements in self-driving cars have led some experts to predict that approximately 65% of all driving-related jobs will vanish in the next 10 years. This is likely to have a huge impact on workers across America, given that in 37 states, driver is the most commonly held job. Worryingly, the negative impact of these job losses won't just be felt in families, but across whole communities. Just consider the effects of the coal sector collapse in Appalachia, the heartland of America's coal mining industry. Many mining communities have faced a catastrophic meth and opioid crisis in the wake of large-scale unemployment. Now consider how much more calamitous the loss of driving jobs could be, given that millions of Americans drive for a living. 1/3 of workers in the United States could see their jobs disrupted within the next 12 years. Much of today's news is both irrelevant and oversimplified. The author's parents taught him it was his civic responsibility to be knowledgeable about important national and local current affairs. In practice, this meant reading the front page of the local newspaper every day, as well as tuning in for the first 20 minutes of the evening news. The author is raising his children to be responsible citizens too. But with ever more information at our fingertips, he questions whether he should still advise them to keep up with the news. While people used to struggle to catch the news while it was on, nowadays the problem is working out what is really news at all. New technology guarantees that news, or items claiming to be the news, is a perpetual presence in our lives, and we are constantly bombarded with a stream of information, both relevant and irrelevant, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. All thanks to the breaking news notifications on our smartphones and social media feeds. There's an even bigger problem with the addiction to the 24-hour news cycle, namely that TV and social media aren't very good at giving the in-depth information a society needs to be truly well-informed. For instance, a 3-minute segment on the 6 o'clock news just isn't equipped to give you the in-depth analysis of new healthcare reforms that it might be helpful for you to know the next time you're deciding which politician gets your vote. Importantly, certain forms of communication are better equipped to handle particular sorts of messages. With the advent of television news, complex issues, whether political, educational, or religious, started to be recast to seem much simpler than they actually were. Why? To accommodate this brand new medium of television, whose role is to entertain us as much as it is to inform us. Therefore, in the interests of entertainment, longer and more in-depth stories have been thrown out in favor of snappier bursts of information. There's even a name for this new phenomenon of keeping ourselves entertained and informed simultaneously: politainment. With the advent of Twitter and its insistence that messages are limited to 280 characters at a time, communication of complex events has become even shallower. Although Twitter is great for flinging witty one-liners at those who don't agree with you, it's hardly an adequate medium for in-depth debates about current affairs. With today's media landscape, there is a real risk of society becoming more confused, misunderstanding things, and thus growing ever more polarized. Scientist. It's a book summary. I'll share. Media pundits focus on idiots to help Americans construct enemies. Sean Hannity's news program is the #1 news show in America, and his radio show takes the #2 spot. Why is Hannity so popular? As he freely admits, the objective of his programs is not to advance logical arguments or to advocate for specific policies. No. Hannity's core mission is to be enraged and to help his viewers get angry too. How does Hannity work up such rage? Simple. He engages in what the author refers to as nitpicking. This is the process whereby the media search social media to find a random individual saying something incredibly stupid. The media then uses this person, or nutjob, to denigrate a whole community of people by claiming that the nutjob is representative of them. Just consider Hannity's coverage of last year's mass shooting at a country music concert in Las Vegas, and you'll see nitpicking in action. The night after the shooting, Hannity's show attacked left-wingers' attempts to politicize the incident. To support his point, he brought viewers' attention to a Twitter account apparently owned by a left-wing schoolteacher. This account had tweeted that they hoped only Trump supporters were killed in the shooting. Additionally, Hannity referenced a Facebook comment made by an obscure media and entertainment lawyer who said they had little sympathy for the victims because they were Republicans. Thus, the two random individuals who made the comments were plucked from obscurity and held up as examples of all of left-wing America's moral repugnance. Most Americans are aware that nitpicking and anger-driven news programs are not productive. And yet, millions of viewers can't get enough of shows like Hannity's. Interestingly, there may be a deep psychological reason why people keep tuning in against their better judgment. Sociological research has found that there's a tangible psychological benefit to having enemies. It turns out that enemies, like the phantom evil left-wingers that Hannity conjures, help to give our lives a greater sense of coherence. One study told participants to imagine a potent enemy, such as ISIS. The researchers found that, after doing this, the participants perceived the wider world as being less dangerous and less disordered. In other words, hate-mongers like Hannity are successful because they help viewers make sense of frightening events. These media pundits plant a wicked them in our minds and thus sow the seeds of social conflict. American universities are promoting a culture of intolerance and self-segregation. A healthy nation demands more than simply the legal right to debate issues. It also requires a culture that is welcoming of discussion and that encourages habits of empathy, respect, and charity. After all, you will never listen to what they have to say. Although this reasoning might sound obvious, modern America is moving ever further away from these principles of open and respectful debate. And as the author argues, nowhere is the problem more pronounced than on our university campuses. Regrettably, the current cultural climate on college campuses up and down America is one of intolerance and suppression of free speech. Just consider the astonishing events at Yale University in November of 2015. Prior to the campus Halloween festivities, Yale administrators sent out instructions to students that they should not wear culturally insensitive items such as Native American headdresses, sombreros, or turbans. In response to this memo, Professor Erica Christakis sent out another email to students, suggesting that it was heavy-handed of the university to police what their students wore, and that a better way to deal with cultural sensitivities would be for students simply to tell each other if they were offended by certain costumes. Although her email might seem unremarkable, a short time later, both this professor and her husband were forced to resign, following enraged student protests and accusations of racism. This is just one example of how intolerant many young people have become of those who disagree with their views. Furthermore, universities themselves often propagate the idea that people should be sheltered from differing viewpoints. Although encountering opinions different to your own is an indispensable part of a rounded education, many universities are now ensuring students can avoid doing so. For instance, safe spaces and designated rooms for crying are now being created on campuses. Worryingly, these are areas that allow students to segregate themselves from anyone with differing opinions and to protect themselves from any challenges to their existing ideologies. Arguably, the creation of these sorts of spaces is deeply un-American. Why? Because it sends out a message they can only be expected to live alongside individuals who are the same as you. Every American can take steps to help the United States play as a national team again. In the classic 90s flick Any Given Sunday, Al Pacino's character gives a stirring pep talk to the football team he's coaching. Either we heal as a team, or we are going to crumble. Although this analogy might seem a little cheesy for contemporary America, the society needs to start playing as a team again, if the nation is to prosper in the future. Luckily, there are steps America can take to make this happen. Firstly, it is important to remember that there is a big difference between debating social or political policy with your opponent and demonizing them. This realization requires the attachment of some basic standards of civility to public and political debate. Why? To protect an opponent's dignity and ensure our children have decent role models to look up to. After all, how would you feel if your kid verbally abused another child just because they disagreed with them? Additionally, American citizens need to start holding political candidates and commentators from their own side to exactly the same standards of behavior that they hold their opponents. Just because someone's politics are the same as yours, it doesn't excuse them from lying. Truthfulness matters in public life. American society also needs to become more skeptical of politicians who give easy answers. Namely, being wary of any candidate who frames America's problems in terms of one particular group's interests versus another's is an important step. America as a nation needs to start appreciating the difference between reporting based on facts and commentary based on opinions. In other words, Americans need to start to separate serious journalism from Sean Hannity-style entertainment. Why? Because proper journalism should not be a game based on angry sound bites. It's not the job of journalists to entertain the public. Their task is to ask powerful people difficult questions. Furthermore, when powerful politicians attack journalists for asking these difficult questions, society should take the time to scrutinize that politician's behavior and question why they don't want to engage with the press. They may have something to hide. Lastly, Americans should remember that the people who seek more rage, whether students at university campuses or shock jocks on the airwaves, are all missing the point. America's political and social world is not about us against them, or good against evil. Instead, it's about realizing that what joins Americans together is greater than that which divides them. Final summary. The key message in this book. American public life has deteriorated into intolerance and disproportionate hostility towards those who disagree. Whether it's students forcing out conservative professors or shock jocks painting an evil portrait of liberal progressives, America seems to have lost its value of truthfulness and dignity for all. Only by returning to a mindset of agreeing to disagree and eschewing angry commentary for serious journalism can America start to regain its sense of civic decency. What to read next? The Sunflower by Simon Wiesenthal. As you've just discovered, conflict and hatred in public life still dog us today. In The Sunflower, we'll look at what happens when unchecked hate and rhetorical violence spills over into something far worse. In this thought-provoking book, we'll join Simon Wiesenthal as he wrestles with the aftermath of Nazi Germany and asks whether forgiveness is appropriate. Through focusing on the real-life dilemma of a Jewish concentration camp prisoner over whether to forgive a Nazi soldier on his deathbed, the book explores a range of opinions from voices as varied as the Dalai Lama and Primo Levi. So if you're interested in learning about the terrible consequences of hate and whether healing is truly possible, check out the book, The Sunflower. Well, it goes a lot faster when I'm not coughing up a storm. Okay. Scientist, Earth the scientist. Earth the scientist. Are you there, scientist? Earth the scientist. Earth the scientist. Are you there, scientist? Why we hate each other. I don't hate anybody. I don't see killer. Well, that's really weird. That's exceedingly strange. Okay. And GTFO. Walk around. Walk into places and do things and I don't know. Maybe it'll help clear my head. Wherever it's at. Wow, this is broken. That is total trash. Complete and utter trash. And my computer is freaking out. This is great. Wonderful. Okay. I think this next one is junk too. Yes. Complete trash. Still freaking out. What? Okay. Howdy ho. Howdy ho, scientist. I'm just cutting some stuff and then I'm gonna try to get out of here and go walk around and see if I can wander my way into some trouble. It was a book summary. You know, it's nothing unusual. 3826. If you're curious about the particular title, I can find that for you. But right now I'm just cutting stuff up. It's been good. The broadcast is going through it right now. I have another one sitting over there. So 2 of them in this room, but I'm only using 1. I have another one at home too, but it's significantly weaker than the ones I have here. Not really. Like as a client? Not really. Seems to be pretty decent as a client. I've tried hosting a hotspot off of it, and there was some slightly odd behavior. But I don't really know where the problem is. I guess I don't know, I haven't looked deep enough. Yeah, so I don't have a monitor hooked up to mine. If I need to interact with it, I just hop in on a remoting solution. You know, I don't actually have a monitor here for my use. Just my laptop. And I have the iPad over here to look at chat. Yeah, right now it's connected over to a hotspot. It is presently connected over to one of those little mobile Nighthawks, because that came recommended by a source or something. Yeah. Anyways, it's potentially useful. I have no idea how well this shit's gonna work. I don't have high hopes. I don't have high hopes right now. Or I should reward this. I don't have a good feeling. Which fucking sucks. I had time to figure this shit out, and then instead I'm trying to wing it at the last moment. It's the connectivity, specifically bonding. Specifically bonding. I can... Yeah, we'll see what happens. I want to be able to bring back footage from Hawaii. Not just bring back footage, I want to be able to broadcast in decent quality on location. And the hope was to use this little miniature computer, the Intel Compute Stick, and hook up multiple cellular modems to it and use this software bonding solution. But so far I haven't had any real luck with the software bonding. It has been a miss. And that sucks. It's just been poop. Anyways, I can share more details. Phone streaming is not an option. So the purpose of bonding multiple cellular modems, while phone streaming straight out of the phone, it is an option. The reason why I wanted to pair it with this computer is because then I can do some more trick shit. Slightly more trick shit. And now I have these overlays, and I can do the overlays too on the phone, but I can't do... I don't think I have the capacity to do scene transitions, and I can only use the single connection. Maybe I can use Wi-Fi on premises along with the cellular modem if I use the bonding thing on the phone. So, problems. Yeah. Some And ultimately, you see this, not multiple cameras. At least I haven't thought to use multiple cameras yet. Maybe one day, in like a distant future. But see this? Watch the screen carefully, and you should see hi, and it'll fade away. What scenes transition? Like a be right back, a start, a stop. Really, really basic transitions. Super basic. I wanted to solve the problem by using a local solution, having the broadcast going through this little machine. But right now it's that bonding thing that's tripping it up. And I have a hint, I have a tip from another broadcaster on a open source bonding solution. Required building out another piece of hardware and then getting a VPS to join everything back together again. And then you could go from there out to something else. So it just gets more trick. Everything else gets more trick. I don't know. Maybe I went too far. I was too ambitious. It's not so much for that. It's these little things. It's the little things that are, like the long-term nice to have things that I want for the future. Like that little, I don't know which direction it is. Let me think. It would be in this corner where it says stream chat. And that hooks into Discord. And this is possible to do by leveraging a GPU-enabled VPS. But then the cost goes up a lot. You got that monthly cost. And my experiments so far with RTMP haven't been good, so, it'd be one of those things that, it's just, Parsec. I don't think that I have. I can look into it. I can pull it up and take a look at it. Konata Izumi. Oh yeah. Okay, so it's like that other one. One called, fuck, I forgot what it's called. Shadow. I had actually had this pulled up before. Like it's something that's been clicked on before. Interesting. Thank you, Konata Izumi. I want to make it better. I want to make the channels better and release more content. I think I need to suck it up and just do more of it myself at this point. Try to make time. Make time. I believe I can do this. Anyhow, I don't really want to spend too much more time here tonight. I'll cut one more thing. Where's this little automated job? I wanted to do this one for me because I'm a lazy human being. Yeah, I want to actually go out and see if it'll help clear my head. Nope. Okay, so... Well, at least we know that much. Okay. Cool story. Yeah, but this this bonding thing that another broadcaster turned me on to also leverages Raspberry Pi. There are a couple of folks at least who are more or less trying to do the same thing. And I'm hoping I can just skip out on one step altogether. But we'll see. Thus far, it's been a miss. Thank you, scientist. Just stubborn old me. Yeah, there are so many challenges. I mean, at day's end, it's really trying to become a live influencer, right? I was reading about two folks today. Oh, okay, I'll cut one more. One was Little Pump, and the other was Tekashi 69. I found this to be quite engrossing. Because these are not people whose music I really consume, people that I really know much about. Just very, very curious. Oh, that is cool, man. When you woke up, like, you woke at 6. Damn. Yeah, I bet it was a really good site. You know, it's fucking weird. I don't know. The more time I spend with this, at this point I have no idea. I don't know what to make of it. It's like, hey, this broadcasting thing is a thing that anybody can do. It's like, okay, you can turn on the camera. Now what? Shit, now what? Like, yeah, it would have been cool to look at a snowstorm. You could also just capture it, just record it. Like, hey, why not do both? I'm trying to set things up so it's just always like, why not do both? And there are guys already doing it. I just want to do it for less. The frustrating thing is all of the stuff is out there in the wild. got the pieces. I just can't seem to get the last one working right now. That's pretty frustrating. Granted, I haven't spent too much time with it recently. I just put in a new ticket last night. I had Google Glass for a while, scientist, and I returned it. I did have it for a minute, 22, 26, 30. Alright, so it comes up right at the end of here. I don't know when it starts. This is on the 20th. Sorry, I gotta dive into some stuff in order to figure out where I'm at. Imagine what those would go for. I don't think they're going for as much as they initially sold for. They were like $1,500 back when they were first announced, and I remember that, like, things were just slipping. So I was still within the return window, and I figured, okay, may as well. I remember the first thing I did with the Google Glass, outside of some like really short home video type shit, I tried recording the entire commute from my home to my work. At the time I was working with this guy off of Craigslist, that I'd met off of Craigslist. It was like a half-hour drive. Maybe a little longer. So I had the Google Glass. I can't remember which side the thing was on, but I plugged it into the little micro USB charger, and it got quite hot and became unresponsive. And it just started behaving strange. So clearly it wasn't good for like full day stuff, even if you could power it. Yeah, but I don't know. These are somehow different. For whatever reason, these are different. Anyways, yeah, the price to enter the streaming game, especially out in the field, is quite high right now. I'll link you to the thing I did. Still work in progress. Still work in progress. Okay, so it would have happened an hour, 36 minutes and change-ish. Let's see if that's it. Let me see where we're at. I actually have no idea when this thing started. So this would have happened, this is on the 20th. $122.32. Scientist, I think I'm gonna leave here in a bit. and I'll take a look and respond as I'm walking. I want to get out there. Try not to drink. Okay, if I drink, I'll limit myself to 2 drinks. Okay? Yeah. Okay, 2:25:34. 2:25:34. 25:34. That's weird. Those times are so off. Yeah. So that's the goal. The goal is to get out into the field more, and to be able to do it high def and do it cheaply. Because right now it's very expensive to play. It's golly, especially if you want to do it well. So we'll see how far I can make it. I don't know if it's. I don't think that my shit is ready yet. So I'm not too excited about that, but. It's okay. There's other stuff. There's bigger shit to figure out, but I at the same time, man, it's like the sooner I can figure this out, the better. I really wish it would fucking work. Maybe what I need to do is just try off of like two cellular connections at the same time. Like other people have apparently had success with the solution. I don't know why I'm not. It's weird. Like it works for some people, it doesn't work for others. What the fuck's going on? No idea. It's weird. I'll experiment with it some more. Maybe. Probably. Let us chat more on this subject. For now, I really want to get going. I just cut a couple of pieces. Fuck, I don't know. Thank you. Love you. Love you. Hey, world. I'll catch you again soon. I don't want to be here right now. Soon. Bye-bye for now.